The minutes reflect that for our roll call that everyone's present and we do have a quorum. And if everyone has had a moment to look at the minutes, anyone have any corrections to the minutes? Or any corrections to the minutes? Miss Evie? Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Thank you for your, we have a first motion, we have a second. Todd Weber with a second, followed by Dwight Jewell with a first. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you for approval of the minutes. Let's follow on to the October 2021 financial report. It's in your packet. I know it's a little thick. Hopefully you've had a moment to review when we got those the other day. Are there any questions to the financial report? There not be any questions or corrections?
Motion to approve the financials.
I have a motion. Todd Weber, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. All in favor of approval of the financial report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to the water loss report. I'm going to hand that over to Mr. Tommy McFarland.
This month's or this October's month was around 45.1%. Last year this time around 42.9. I think we're still waiting on a part for the water plant to get a flow meter fixed. It may help some of this clean up. We have a check valve that ain't holding it, lets air get in the meter, the way the meter works, and it makes it read erroneous a little bit. But until they get that in, everything's a little bit slow getting parts in. Some things are. Maybe that'll help tighten our data up a little bit.
Are there any questions for the water loss report? Mr. Joel.
Tommy, do you feel like that's the only thing that would have attributed to it?
It could be if you do this calculation, I guess when you look at the math, those numbers are, usually it's around, you may have we can see other meter reads, but that thing will be sitting there calculating when it ain't supposed to. And it don't know but to calculate it. It reads what it reads. But that check valve will help. It's like letting the water stay in the pipe, and it drains down, gets air and all that plumbing. And this is not a normal, like a meter in the ground. It's a like a pressure sensor meter, and the air gets in there and causes this to happen. We have to bleed it about every day to make it work when we go in. But at nighttime and stuff like that, when that check valve fails to hold that water, it drains down, gets air in it, and it don't calculate right.
Okay, I appreciate you giving that explanation, but is there anything else that you know of that
No,
might be affecting this? It was my question.
yeah, not that I'm aware of. We fix we've been fixing little leaks. We keep watch on those meters that we have. One of our neighbors had a problem. We caught it real quick. Castine Springs, we get those numbers in there and see that data. Some of these meters feed to tanks, and it's a little difficult to know. We got one area that I do try to, when we get a little time here and get some of these projects finished up, we might go listen to some valves and shut some stuff down and see if we can't. I think the area like out toward Middle Fork might be some stuff there that we're gonna see if we can't locate it.
Thank you. Ms. Stafford, did you have a question? Thank you. If there's not any more questions, we'll go to our engineering report from Evan White with Mid-10 Engineering, please.
I'll give you the updates on the grants. Right now, CDBG is still not released the rankings, this is the first time since I know of, and since we've been in business, that it's been this late ever. Usually October is as late as it's ever been, and now we're almost into December. So I know they've had some losses there due to COVID and personnel changes, but they're still haven't released where y'all are going to rank in that. SRF called the other day. I talked to them again. Their main concern, and for whatever reason they kept asking, they've asked it about 10 times. They want to know if y'all's water intake was above your sewer discharge. And we have clarified that at least 10 times, and it is. So that was the only question I had left. They said they was going to start getting the rest of the financials together, and it'll be coming down to y'all for what your terms would be for the tank project. That's all I got. I've got the feasibility study. We've released the final that we got done. It won't be as long as last time I talked to y'all. I'm going to hit the highlights. Everything is now in order in here. We went by y'all's recommendation and done only the county roads. If you want to turn to the appendix, that'll probably be where you want to go. Page 8 and 9, you can kind of get an overview of a graph of the costs. But Appendix A, I don't know, did he print in color or black and white? So that's going to help me know. If it's in black and white, it's going to be these thicker, darker lines. If not, it'll be red if you got a colored version. That's the roads in the entire county that does not have water lines. And if you look at the PDF version or the colored version, blue means you have water on those roads. That's just an overview. We can send these blowed up in areas if you want to see it, but this is basically the entire county. You can get an idea of, it's basically a shotgun effect as far as there's no concentrated area that's left out of some of these roads. Appendix B, we'll get into it in a minute. That'll be your rates. C is now your listings. And if it's in red, it takes a booster pump. That's in the notes also. If it's in yellow, it takes another road to serve it. That's county roads. That is official county roads. If you go down to the next block, that's private roads. We went ahead and showed you those. And we also showed you the Castine Springs Utility District, some of the roads in the west part of the county, just so you get an idea on where they rank. If you want to go in and if y'all want to speculate on some of these roads developing, just speculate how many houses you're going to get. Go ahead and times that by 2.5, and you can get an idea of where it would rank if you want to kind of see where you could change some of the rankings by that method. But right now we assumed none of these would. This is only standing by what's there now, the houses that you would actually get customers on. And that's not to say that they would take it. We run into this a lot. You put it in, a lot of times people like the wells they got, it's, you know, it's already there. It's not costing them anything. And usually they wait till it goes out before they'll swap over. So you can't just guarantee you're going to get these people if you run it to them. So if you continue on, I just want to give you an idea of our basis on how we come to the conclusion of these numbers. The page 1 behind that is going to be your return on investment calculations. And what we done is we took the number 2 row with 7 customers. I didn't want to run some of these roads that had 1 or 2 customers. All the numbers are going to be about the same, but you can see kind of the cost that you'd be involved in and the years of return on your investment. The return on your investment, if you've done it at current rates, is about 35 years on your second highest ranked road. If you do a 10% increase, you only got it down to about 32 years. And if you've done a 50% increase, you're about 23 years. So you can see, even if you increased your rates 50%, you're still probably about half the life of the system you're going to put in. I mean, they're saying 50 years on these pipes. So that'll kind of give you an idea of the feasibility of this, and that's what the study's for. Now let's go to Appendix B, and we'll summarize this so you can kind of see what we've done. You can see right here, it says fiscal year 2021 water revenue. That's got y'all's revenue rates. And then out beside of it, it says the increase. So we've done 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50%. And that's of an increase across the board. That's for inside, outside, and wholesale. So you can see if you do a 10% increase, you could come up with another about $235,000 of revenue in order to do some of these projects. If you read our report, we told you could get about 2 projects a year based on that. So I think it reads 49 years at a 10% increase, you could get all the roads done. So you're still looking at like 50 years to get everybody served, even if you only increased it 10%. And if you go on down that column, it's showing you what the increase would be. So the far left column is all your current rates and what they are, and every across your headings there, depending on the increase, you can see what it would go to. So y'all can look at it, study it, and we can talk about it at the next meeting. I just wanted y'all to see it and present it. And if you got questions, I'll answer it. But this ought to give you a pretty good idea, you know, if you've done any increases or no increases. That's one way to do the some of the projects to get a little extra money to serve some of these folks. But we're still going to stand behind our initial findings from the last meeting, that none of them are technically feasible from a business standpoint.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm not looking for us to dig into this deeply tonight. I dug in this last night after I received it for hours. And I have about 6 pages of questions, and I'll spare you all. We're not looking to meet in December, is that correct? At this time, unless there's emergency. And so if we come back in January, there's a lot to decide within this. So it might be more than just our normal meeting that we allocate this project to, because it's going to be worth its time. I've gone in and I've pulled our neighbors' prices and things to see what our neighboring water departments and utility departments are requesting. And it's not apples to oranges when you fill the math, when you do the math out. There's one is per every 1,500, where we're every 2,000 gallons, and then somebody else might be 3,000 gallons. But based on the math, I think we can figure out what's going to be a reasonable rate and comparative to our neighbors as well, and figure out where we need to be for the next, and then also where the direction needs to go. Is my input, and I probably should have let that be last, but I'll let y'all ask him any questions that you might have. If anybody has any questions for Mr. White.
We also going to have the comprehensive study, 20-year study. So that's coming up probably about 3 more months. I had 6 months to do it. I want to get this one first, and we're going to build on it. So that'll be coming also. It'll kind of give you a lot broader overview of the entire system, and a whole lot of what could and ifs and different scenarios on 20 years down the road. So there's a lot of speculation in a comprehensive plan. So unlike this.
Thank you.
One quick question. I didn't understand. You said about a multiplier 2.5 or something about additional homes or.
Yes. So the way we do that cost and that, and I'll go through it so you can follow it. If you turn to Appendix C there, the table, you got a length and you got a number of houses. So let's say you got 2 houses, but you got 5. That PPH stands for people per household.
Okay.
So that's 2.5 times the house.
Okay.
And that's a national average. And we got to go off of current statistics. Y'all's current, and that's in the report, y'all's current water usage is like 3,380 gallons per tap per month. So that's a number that's really, 3,380 gallons. It's on page 7, but that's a number that fluctuates between areas, and it's real hard to get a national average on that just because if you go towards the larger cities, a lot of people use treated water also for basically irrigation and other things. Some do rain harvesting. So you can't really go off a national average. What we've done is actually use JAWS numbers for that. So that gives us an idea of the cost on your return on investment numbers. But to get back to your point, the 2.5 is per house. So if you think there's going to be a 10 house development possible, then you could say that's 20.5 more people. And that's going to give you your cost per person. And that's how these are ranked. So you got to kind of use that math to get the cost per person to see. Because you may be down here, let's say Moss Lane, you're $67,600 per person. But if you think you could get 10 more houses for sure, then you've now got, you've cut your cost per person way down. It may move up to number 2 or 3. That's what I'm saying. If you want to speculate on some of these that could possibly develop more than the others, then you could kind of see where they might move in the rankings.
There are some side offshoot roads that I don't see indicated on here. Maybe they're like off of Griff's Hollow. You've got Griff's Ridge Lane that has, I believe, 3 dwellings on it. And I think you were showing 5 on Griff's Hollow. If those 3 are added in there, it's got to be more than 5. And there was a permit issued this week for another dwelling on Griff's Hollow. And there's 2 others planned down there that I know that they've, we're working on addresses for. So that's my only concern is that there are areas, and we could probably maybe get Sam in to give us some indication of what roads that he foresees possible growth on, so that we would maybe, because that might skew our numbers a little bit going into the future. It may not be today, but it would be different 3 months from now or even 6 months from now. So just not being critical, not trying to be critical. I just want to make sure that those possibilities are somehow worked into this if there's any way that we can.
Yeah, one thing to do too is if Sam knows, if he gets this list or something, maybe he could, it's going to be hard to remember 56 of them, but if he starts getting some houses, he could always update, maybe send something, and then we could update our chart here or something, because we got the data here. It's something you could change every few years. You could update it and redo your rankings, because they could change. It don't take much to change your rankings on this. So.
Thank you. And I do recall when we charged him with this challenge to take this based on the street roads, but I do remember there's some communication and talk about we being it on a case-by-case basis. I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was Mr. White who made that suggestion, that we really take everyone by case. I know it was introduced to us to be what's in development now.
Yeah, the way we done, we wrote each road, each 56, we wrote all 56 roads. We had more than that, I guess 56 plus 12, all of them. We wrote every one of them, and we counted the active mailboxes. And and houses. So if we could tell somebody's living there, that's kind of how we got it. Used to, you could go off of 911 databases. There's now HIPAA laws, so we can't really get that database. That used to be information we could get, and it was real handy. And you didn't have to ride these, and it would tell you if they're there and who they are, and other points of data. But we can't get that now, so we had to ride these, figure out if there's anybody living there or not. We counted them that way, and then we put them in here, and then Tommy had to go back and help us, because a lot of your roads, you may have 2 or 3 customers on the very front of the road already served. So then you had to pull those numbers that we counted back out, which makes it look like less, because you technically already served them, even though the line don't run in front of their house. So that they just got long services. So there's some things we had to manipulate there to try to make it as fair as possible when ranking these, and whether they had water or not. So and that's something that could change also.
That in itself could account for what I was talking about, because I do know some of those are served up at the head of it. So that's probably where that difference comes in. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Mr. White for putting all the work into this. I mean, he's got us a jumping off point, starting place. We didn't have that to begin with. One thing to keep in mind though about the ROI is this is based on a one-time 10% rate increase, which, please don't quote me. I don't think we need to go into this with just a one-time increase. We need to figure out a plan going forward, regular increases, just like any other business. You cannot keep doing the same thing for the same price when it's costing you more to do it. Which by doing that, common sense tells you your ROI is going to shrink even more, which is a good thing. As far as rankings and other roads, I just, this is going to get us started. I mean, people in here, I'm sure, know better about, areas that are probably going to develop faster or possibly develop, and we can rank them how we want to, I'm sure, but this is definitely what we needed to start with, and I appreciate you doing the hard work.
One more thing I want to point out, me and Tommy talked about this week, just because it got brought to our attention. Like, again, it's the never ending project 141. They have asked us to update and make sure all the water lines where they are, and do some things for TDOT. But like me and him talked about, there's we may want to look that direction too, because that area is probably could develop, and you might want some infrastructure there. Right now, there's none that kind of goes through. Is it Starlight? Is that what y'all call it in that area? So there's some stuff there we may want to look at. I'm not saying during this, but I'm just saying in that comprehensive plan, we're really going to look towards that, because there's lots of farmland out there. It's now going to have a major thoroughfare through it. They say it's coming in 2023 at the last meeting I attended. So we'll see.
Are there any more questions on the report? Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
That's gonna, before we head to the general manager's report, I would like to ask Tommy, could we do a cross-reference and see the billing addresses, if you haven't already, with the ones that are on this list, and confirm if we have any billing addresses for water with who's listed, the addresses that are listed, the streets are listed on this? That may actually be an additional format to check off and see who might actually have water at the entrance of their road, but we're not.
That's kind of what we did when we made sure we went through all the, and sometimes you've got one person that has 2 people. There might be 2 households on 1 meter in some situations. So we tried to go through and check and find all that, if we could. And I don't say we didn't miss that. We could check it again though, and look at it again and make sure we didn't miss anything.
Thank
Most of the guys that read meters helped us figure out who, because they used to read them and they knew who they were. So we had every guy that read a meter here, he went through that list and he said, yeah, he found one, the other didn't. And that's kind of how we looked through them too. But the ladies went through also and went through the records, and I had them all, everybody that works here went through all that. And we can certainly look, make sure we didn't miss nothing. But
Thank you. And that'll take us to the general manager's report. Tommy McFarland, if you'll do it, muchly appreciated.
We have no more information unless the mayor does about the withdrawal from the river topic.
No, I think you're not going to see much movement on that for redistricting purposes. We may or may not be in same districts going forward, so I don't know that there's going to be much movement on that. And so that's kind of where that is. I did discuss it with our representative's office and then some other mayors at the Greater Nashville Regional Council meeting. And right now that's kind of what I'm getting is based on redistricting. They're going to wait till that's settled out to see whose congressional district we're going to be in, because that's who we need to go through to push that forward. So until we get that settled, I don't think there's going to be much more movement on this.
Thank you, sir.
I think Mary Dale, you got we had the 2 bids is all we had. I meant to get y'all a bank list and I forgot it, but I don't think I can remember them by name. But I think Wilson and the new bank in town, they're only 2 that actually turned anything in. And I had a couple email and say they wasn't going to participate.
Could you share that with the board at a later time, even if
Yeah.
even if you email it to us, so we know who you asked and who declined, please?
Yes, I will.
Latest one postmarked 11/17/2021, and that is by First National Bank. Return the cover letter to Miss Darlene Linville is attached. Let me show you, because I know it's going to be hard to understand what I'm talking about without showing everybody. But it looks like we have a 12-month, 18-month, 24-month, 30-month, and 36-month. The 12-month for 500,000, 1 million, and 1.5 all are at 0.25. 0 fees. And then the 18 months, that rate is 0.45 for all 3 amounts as well. It also equals for 24 with the 0 fees included. We have 24 months at 0.65 for all 3 amounts requested with 0 fees. That number stays the same for the additional months of 30 at 0.65, 0.65, 0.65, 0 fees, and 36 months at 0.65. So they're not offering any more money for a 30-month or 36-month CD for them to, and this is in relationship to our CD is up for renewal, and we opted to shop local banks and our community's neighboring local banks. So that's our first one. Second was an earlier date received, postmarked of November 13th, 2021 by Wilson Bank and Trust. Cover letter is personally written by Mr. Seth Thurman. Dear Mr. McFarland, please find and close the information requested regarding the Wilson Bank and Trust certificates of deposit rates. These rates are good through December 31, 2021. If there's any questions, you may reach out to me. He presents his work number, his email address. Sincerely, Seth Thurman. On this one, in addition to the last one, the rate is the exact same on the monthly ratio all the way across for each figure. The first 12-month one is at 0.20, 0.20, 0.20. If there's an early withdrawal, you pay 30 days interest is the way I believe I'm reading this. And then the 18-month is 0.35. 0.35, 0.35, with an early withdrawal fee, only if there's an early withdrawal fee of 90 days interest. 24 months is 0.4 for all three amounts. 180 days interest if there's an early withdrawal. 0.60 for 30 months with a 180 days interest if there's an early withdrawal. And for 36 months, there's one at 0.55 with 180-day interest early withdrawal. Signed by Seth Thurman. 1113 rates are good for 12/31/21. This does, with this timeline and we not meeting in December, we will need to make movement on this. So allow me to pass this forward.
Where do we have the money already? Where's it at now?
Wilson Bank and Trust. Citizens Bank is where the CD.
And they're offering more money. Well, safe to say, I know where I'd go.
Yeah, I think the only debate is the duration. I mean, clearly the national banks slightly better rates.
It looks like what I see, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the best lowest term rate was 0.65 with First National Bank on 24 months. 24 month from Wilson was 0.40. So I would make the motion that we go with a 24 month with First National Bank. If we're ready to do that.
I think we might need we are ready to move forward as long as we have clarity on the amount that we are acquiring for the CD. We have the full amount of 1.5. So if you want to break it up for different times, so you've got staggering, so you're not pulling all money out at one time.
Well, we have other monies. This is not all the monies, is it?
We have one other CD out there, is that correct? And it's still with Citizens Bank, if I'm correct.
And when does it, do you know when it matures? $2023. I mean, none of these we're going to get rich off of. I mean, you're splitting hairs as far as the amounts, but on that amount of money, it can amount to several $1,000s over the period of time. But all I'm saying is there's a big difference between an 18 month at 0.45 and 24 month at 0.65, and 30 month, 36 month is still 0.65. So obviously we'd want to go for the shorter period of time because the rate is exactly the same. Do we anticipate needing to access this money anytime quicker than 24 months?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir. But we do have the full amount there's 3 columns of amounts,
Mhm.
so that it gave them the eligibility to break it up. So if you want to specify,
0.65 in any amount. So I think as far as the term in the bank, I think First National 24-month, no matter how much money we're going to put there, is going to give us our greatest return for the shortest period of time. Now, that was why I was, I guess, I'll rephrase it. It's not a motion, it's a suggestion. As far as is the amount, it's not going to matter on the rate. I would suggest that we don't do like a $1 million rate. We would do 2 $500,000 CDs. That way, if we wanted to, needed to access the money sooner, then we could, leave one intact and only be disturbing one of them. Or even if we went with 3 of them, since there's no advantage to having it, in a larger amount. But I'm good with whatever we decide. But obviously First National Bank has the higher rate, and that's who we need to go with as far as the rate. And term at 24 months is not that long. 24 months rolls around before you can turn around.
any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have kind of an authorization or a thought. When you get down to item 12, board members' comments, that what I handed out earlier is kind of some information, what the state's looking to do as far as water and sewer infrastructure under the American Rescue Fund. There is a provision in there, and this chart I handed out is going to discuss it as well. For our non-competitive grants we're going to get, our local match is going to be required to be 40%. And they don't care if you use American Rescue Funds that the counties receive for it, or if you use the water department's reserve. So if we could, Mr. Jewell, if you'd withdraw your motion, I'm going to make a motion to move this to the Hill, which basically would put it behind that discussion or just kind of information on the American Rescue Fund, because let's face it, these interest rates are they're not stellar. So there might be a situation there. We look at it, it might be better to use some of these funds to go ahead and do some of these projects. It might be better use of funds than receiving in the bank at that interest rate. But I just think if that's something, we can just discuss that. And then if you want to make a motion on what to do with it, that's just what I'd like to see done. But then again, if you all want to do something with it now, that's completely up to the board.
We need a motion to hold. Do we need a motion to hold the
I
conversation until after
I
his
had rescinded my
presentation?
motion, said I offered it as a suggestion. It wasn't seconded, so I think we can take it up at a later time.
We will need it. So we'll,
I'm going to make a motion that we roll this down the agenda for tonight until after item 11, which be board member comments, and then come back and readdress this agenda item.
your Chambers has a first on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jules, a second. Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we'll move that. So let's go to our next item on the agenda, and this will just be rolled to the bottom. Thank you, sir.
The attorney that y'all chose at last month's meeting has sent this contract to be signed, and he requested it go through a meeting. So I don't know if he meant for you to vote on it or not, but y'all done voted to choose him.
Is it different than what we
No,
had
it's
last
not.
time?
It's not a different he just needs a signature on it.
Well, I think we authorized you in that motion to accept them to sign it, did we not?
I think he wants the chairman of the board to sign it. Yeah. Yeah, she'll have to sign it. I don't know if it needs your approval. I told
We
him
can
I'd
put a
put it through
motion
the
on the
meeting.
floor to approve the hiring of the law firm.
Motion to approve the signing of the contract for Branstedter's Drench, and Jennings.
We have a first on the floor. Mr. Weber.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. A second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, we prepared a safety grant application for Tennessee Risk Management. They give out up to $20,000 to purchase safety equipment or different types of safety equipment. And I've submitted a near $20,000 amount of money for several. One item is rolled into 7 of those on that list. It's one big package, but it's actually a device that lowers people in and out of manholes and safety. It helps, protect them if they something wrong. You can pull them out. It's a safety equipment. Some various signs. It's a oxygen type meter that it tests methane gas, different types of bad gases. We don't have one of them currently. And we go into plenty of places that could have that. Manholes, sewer manholes, pump stations. We currently don't own one of those, so I put that in this grant. Some of it's blowers that you put on a manhole to blow air in to get the air change out, exchange it out for safety. That's on this. Some safety signs, stuff I could put in there to reach their $20,000 limit, to try to figured it'd be best to try to get it, because you may not get all of it. So we submitted up to $20,000.
Does it require any kind of a match from us?
No. It's competitive. I don't know if, we can file for it and see if we get it. It was the bigger line item things that we would have had to bought ourselves that I tried to file for to see if we could get them.
Just for a little bit more information on this grant, this is a grant through our liability company. It does our workers' comp and property liability and all that. They have this safety grant up to $20,000. And as he said, it's competitive. So I've asked different departments to put together a list of what they may need, and it can be used for training and education and, like Tommy said, equipment and whatnot. So this is Tommy's list for that.
Any other questions on this grant? I ask for a motion for something on the floor.
I make a motion to approve applying for this Tennessee Risk Management Trust Safety Grant.
Chambers has a first on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
White has a second on the floor. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the list is the employee bonuses this time of year that usually gets decided upon by the board. It's in the budget. The comptroller required it to be in there. So the funds are there present. Just think they like for y'all to approve them every year. It's $450 for the employees. And there's the one that y'all usually look at mine. Was part of my package when I got hired in, the $5,000 a year. That's part of it too. 5,000. I'm not a judge. And I did have for that part of it, the mayor asked me about making a list of stuff, similar stuff like the fire hydrants. Of those 75 we bought originally, and that, that little project package I bought, we only like about 13 of those getting them installed. If the valves hadn't got back ordered, and we would have had more done this year, but we was behind getting those parts in, and we'd hoped to finish Highway 25, but I don't think we're gonna get it by the end of the year. We've been doing some sewer cameraing, which we're paying for that, but we're going to have a lot of projects come out of that. And that money, that that cameron that this gentleman's done is going to be beneficial if we go after grant funds. And I'm giving that to Evan. Evan's getting his data, and Evan's looking at those to look at projects. We have found quite a bit of problems. We're concentrating on all the areas that have the smaller pump station areas. And we found, like on Goose Creek, if you have a 1-inch rain, you got 200,000 gallons going through there pumping it, just rainwater. So if we can tie some of those up in our own projects or in this funding that's available, we'll have some projects to show. And Evan will have some data to throw out there and say, this is what we need. And I'm only focusing on the smaller pump stations because the large main lift station encompasses most of town. But we're just looking at those and getting those kind of tightening those up because their electric bill every month, when it rains, they run the electric up. So if we can tighten them up, that'll save us some money and fix some of our problems. And then we'll focus on the big section of town and get started on it. It's a little deeper sometimes in different places. These are kind of shallow, easy to get to and quick to see. And most of them we probably could fix ourselves, but if we have them ready and show a project ready and we have funding that comes available that we might not have had, we might could go after it. And Evan might get that data together as we go. But we've done about 30,000 feet of line already. We've done Thoroughbred, we've done Bridal Path, we've done Goose Creek, we've done Sam Beasley. And that's just 4 areas right there. And the only one we don't like, the smaller pump stations, is Parkhurst. And that's it for the small lift station areas that don't have as many people on them. Then the big task will be the main part of town, the main lift station. But we should have quite a bit of projects to look at that, at all that data. There's quite a bit of work right there alone in what we've looked at so far. And I haven't got to look at it yet. He ain't give me the camera data on Bridal Path, but there's some extensive damage there. We've talked about this before. There's some crushed pipe for several 100 feet. And it's going to have to get addressed before it becomes a problem. That's just some bad construction that went on back in the day. I'm not so sure it's the wrong pipe material or the bad backfilling of the ditch. I don't know, but there's some extensive problems on it that's going to have to be addressed and figured out and all of it's in the pavement road, so it's going to be expensive to tear out and fix. Me and Evan have talked about just moving it over if we can, the elevations work out and we can make it work, just putting it out of the road and just abandoning that and lay it new if we can. It might be cheaper than tearing up pavement and having paid to fix that back. But that stuff we'll have to look at when we get the data together. But that's some of the stuff. And we have, and I probably am bad about not telling you everything we do. But we have rehabbed Parkhurst Pump Station, new pumps, new controls. We've rehabbed Goose Creek. It's a new well, everything's new. When I first come here, we don't have a final bill yet, but there was a project out there for like $300,000 and $400,000, and we probably did it for not even a third of that. So we rehabbed that pump station, put everything in new. We use our emergency contractor to do those things. It's because they had to be done. That pump station, Sam Beasley's another one. We're underdoing it right now. It was a kind of an old can system pump station, and it failed, and we got a bypass pump in it, and it's being planned right now to be done the same. We're going to have to rehab the Thoroughbred pump station well because water is coming up in the bottom of it. We could try to patch it with a concrete, little quick fix with concrete, but it won't last more than, Evan said it might last lucky a year or two. But it's not a concrete structure. It is a fiberglass structure buried 20 foot deep. And it's got water coming in the bottom of it right now. Like you can't fix a pipe to stop that. So, and it's just underground water coming into it. But we found all these problems looking into all this stuff. We just got a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff out there to take care of. But those are some of the things we've been doing, been taking care of, and I appreciate all the hard work these boys do, because they do work hard. They wouldn't be nothing get done if they didn't step up and do their jobs. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate all that your team does. We have a request for approval of the employee bonuses for this year. Do we have a motion on the floor? Unless there's any conversation first.
I move that we approve them. I know it's money spent, but running a business, I'm well aware of the labor market that we're dealing with, and then especially with this department, you've got people with special skills that you've invested time and money in, and if you have to spend money to keep them, then I think it's money well spent. If we don't invest in our people, then all the rest of this is pointless. Just my 2 cents. No pun intended.
Have a first on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
White first, Weber second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We have roll call, please. We're doing a roll call for the vote for bonuses.
Yes.
Stephen Chambers, that's a yes. We have Mark White,
Yes.
Todd Weber,
Yes.
Dwight Jewell. Kendra Stafford.
Yes.
Five yes. Heather Bay, yes. One no. Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us back to our approved, let's keep on the agenda. I'm sorry, I got out of order. Public comments. We have one. I always give you the option. You have anything to ask? Okay. Evan, you have anything to bring back? Thank you, gentlemen. All right, that takes us to board member comments. Stephen Chambers, I'll start with you, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I handed out before the meeting a couple of documents. The first one says fully utilizing American Rescue Plan funding. This is kind of just a very short summary of the plan that the state has proposed for use American Rescue funds for. I will send you more documents in the future. Right now I'm going through them because some of them are a little bit repetitive, so I'm making sure which one's the best one to send to you. Basically, the state has proposed they're going to have 3 different grant programs. The first one is going to be a non-competitive grant that's going to go out to each county in the state. You're going to get a base amount of $2,105,263. And if you refer to the other document I handed out on the legal paper, that gives you the amount for Trousdale County. So you're going to get a base amount, and then you're also going to get a share of a percentage of amount given to the state based on your population. So our total allocation, if you look here, is going to be $3,435,918. There is a local match requirement. It goes somewhere between 20 to 40, depending on whether or not you're a distressed county or not. We are not. Our economics rate very well. So our grant match is going to be the high end. So our grant match is going to be a 40%. Comptroller's office and the TDEC is requesting that the county, look at using some of our American Rescue funds for that 40% match. That way you maximize not only your American Rescue Fund, but also the grant match from the state. But ultimately, if you want to use those funds or you choose to use other funds, whether it's reserve funds that the water department has or anything else, then we still have to do the 40% match. I personally would like to look at using American Rescue funds for that. The one drawback is, and this has been asked, I think it was at a meeting, the comptroller himself was there. Are you going to have to figure in the depreciation, even though you use these funds to do it, to pay for the project? Are you going to have to figure in the depreciation for whatever you do? And the answer was yes, you are. So going forward, you still have to budget the depreciation. Even if we use American Rescue's funds to do all these projects, we still have to fund the depreciation in our budget going forward. So there's been a lot of consternation on that. And there were some counties asked about if there's a way to, in this unusual circumstance, all this money's coming down, if that depreciation requirement could be waived. And I don't think that's going to happen, but that request was made and they said they would take a look at it, but I don't think it's likely to happen. So just to keep that in mind, whatever we do have to fund that depreciation going forward. And the second grant program is the state's going to use it for what they have as their priority projects. And they do have a list of that, which I'm going to send out a document later that you can look at, and it has a listing what their priority projects are. They don't anticipate, or they anticipate there may be some local governments that do not accept their non-competitive match. If they don't, that's going to go into a fund. And in a year or so, they're going to do a third grant that uses that money left over. That's probably going to be done on a competitive basis to fund projects also. So those are the three different grant programs they're looking at, with the one big caveat that all this depends on what the final rule issued by the U.S. Treasury is. This program initially was designed based upon the interim final rule. We expected the final rule to be put out by now. However, the Treasury got over 1,000 comments, and so they're going back, re-examining those and making changes to their interim rule. And they're going to put out a final rule. We've been told maybe sometime before the end of the year or early next year, but there's no definitive date right now. So before TDEC finalizes this draft proposal, that's why you see it says draft on this last project. And I will send this to you as well. This entire draft, it's 35 pages, their proposed plan for spending that money. And I'll send that to you as well, that it is subject to change based on whatever the final rule for Treasury is. So just when I send that to you and read over, keep in mind that this is not the final document. It is based upon the interim rule, which is subject to the final rule. So, and again, this is just my initial reading of it. It's kind of in depth when you go through it, and plus the American Rescue Fund. But if there's any questions, if I can answer it based on what I've read, or if it's just a question we need to take down and transmit to somebody else, there is a program the state has put together with the finance administration. They've hired a consultant firm called Horn LLC. They have what's going to call the local government support program, which you can put together a proposed project or list of projects, send it to them. They'll look it over and tell you whether or not they believe it is eligible. They do not guarantee that in the future Treasury is not going to find that it was an ineligible project and tell you to repay their funds. However, it vastly improves your chances of getting that being an eligible project. And also the Greater Nashville Regional Council is looking at being a consultant on these as well. So they'd give you an initial look at it. They've told me that they're going to send a proposal to the county, that they will help us put together these projects. They'll rank them. So they might tell us one project we proposed might look good in thought, but when you put it down on paper and compare it to other ones, you might want to prioritize that funds for something else. So those are two different avenues we're looking at right now to analyze our projects. And when we come back in January, I have a list of things I'm going to propose to the county commission that we look at funding, send that to budget and finance, various different things. Some of it is things I would like to see. However, I think when you sit down and analyze where to send some funds, I think those are probably going to get cut out, but I still want the discussion to be had. So that's just kind of where we stand on the American Rescue Fund. Again, I think I sent out some links for information on this to the board. If I have not, and I apologize, I've sent out a lot of emails and so I've lost track of which ones I sent, which I haven't. But if I haven't done that, I'll try to send you all the documentation I have and links to where you can watch videos and do these different programs. So I'll stop talking now and I'll answer any questions if anybody's got any.
So we're anticipating 3.4-ish for Trousdale County as a whole. How do you, maybe it's too early to say, but how do you see that getting divvied up mainly in regards to this organization right here?
Well, one of the things we're going to have to do, and I should have mentioned this, is they have a infrastructure scorecard that TDEC is working with Tennessee Association of Utility Districts. They want you to go through this scorecard and see where the deficiencies are in your water department, and then try to use those funds to address those deficiencies. My initial question when we were at this Greater Nashville Regional Council meeting was I couldn't talk to the TDEC rep. She had left already, so I talked to somebody from ECD if it could be used to do some of these unserved areas project lines. And he said he thought it could. There is a provision in one of the rules about using it. However, it has some economic qualifications, and I don't know that we meet any of those 3 economic qualifications, but that is something I want to look at, to using it to do some of these projects. Also, this comprehensive study we've gotten going on with this 20-year, I would suggest we use that as a basis for funding these projects also. But I certainly want to use it, and the comptroller has stressed this every time I've seen him stress to use this for water and sewer and other infrastructure, since he said this is a once in a generation funding coming down, and all our infrastructure, some of it 60, 70 years old, he is very heavily stressing use this on your water and sewer. So I certainly want to address that. And specifically, one of the things I'm looking at is an I&I issue. In 2017, when TDEC did a study on our system, we had about 58.7% of the flow into our sewer plant was actually infiltration and inflow. So that's rainwater or something getting into our system. At that time, it was costing us over $150,000 a year in power for electricity to treat all that water. So if we could address some of those I&I issues, that'll give us capacity back on our sewer plant, which helps us for industrial recruiting, because it has been an issue a couple of times out at PowerCom to recruit an industry into there. And it also reduces the expenditure to the water department. So that's certainly one part I want to look at, as well as they were stressing to replace any lead lines you may have to reduce lead contamination and just things like that. I know we've got some projects here, possibly in this downtown area, but we still got some clay lines. I've talked to Tommy and Evan. We did put in the county's budget $40,000 to replace sidewalks in downtown. And I know some of these lines underneath that sidewalk. So while we have those sidewalks out, let's go ahead and replace those lines while we're at it. So that could be something we could use it there as well, just depending on the timing. We do have to have these funds allocated by December 31st, 2024. And the projects you spend it on must be complete by December 31st, 2026. So they're stressing you to use the funds to the greatest benefit, but also there is a little bit of a time crunch there. So I do anticipate this being much more in-depth discussion when we come back in January and everybody has a much better idea of what we can use these funds for.
Mayor, I don't think we've identified anything else infrastructure-wise in the county substantive or any large amount. I mean, I think what we've been looking toward is water and sewer. Is that not correct? Are there some other projects that's likely to come out of this? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Are you talking about the American Rescue Fund in general, or just the water and sewer? Just this. You can use it for some planning. We have the water plant. Now they said one of the things is they know that some of these projects that are going to be planned are not going to be completed by the December 31st, 2026 deadline. But they did stress you can use this money to do the initial planning and get all that stuff moving. So that I do believe we're going to have to look at a new water treatment plant soon. I think we're reaching that 80% capacity limit. We might be able to use some of that to do some of this initial planning for the water plant. However, I think we need to get all these on the board. If GNRC, which they've indicated to me, are going to assist us with this, they're particularly interested in the infrastructure side of things, since they report to the Tennessee Advisory Committee on Intergovernmental Relations for our district every year. They're particularly interested in this, and so they're going to come in and propose to help rank the projects as to best use of the funds. So it may be to do the replacement of the sewer lines and whatnot. I just think we need to throw everything on the table, see what scores the best, what looks the best, and then use the funds for that. And we just got to keep in mind that we did get about 5.3 million to the county. It did go into 2 separate pots, however. So the General Services District got about 1.9, I believe, and the Urban Services got 3 point something. So I'm not sure about moving those funds between projects or how that has to be done. We do know we have to report to Treasury twice, whereas other counties report once, we have to report twice. So that's something we've been talking to the comptroller's office about, how we can move those funds around. Do they have to stay inside urban services and whatnot? So like I said, when we come back in January, I have a list of things. I've been talking to various organizations around our region about uses of some of those funds. Some of it I look for affordable housing, some of it for workforce development projects, expanding the health department because some of their COVID supplies are outside in a trailer or a storage shed. Using some of it to buy medical equipment for the ambulance service. There's a lot of different uses for those funds. And we're trying to look through that and see exactly what's probably the best for us. And some of the proposed funds are not applicable to us, that we just don't, whatever those projects are, you have to be in a much larger county than us to do it. But that's why I want to come back in January, give, good heads up to the water board, to the county commission, send them out something. Here's these things I've been looking at. Here's the organizations, our stakeholders we need to work with, and then start going forward on getting that spending plan together.
But as far as what was allocated for infrastructure, there's nothing really on our radar other than water sewer. We don't have gas services, so we're not having to split this money with them. Our roads are in good shape. We're probably not going to be building bridges with any of this money. So pretty much all this money is going to be available for water and sewer. Is that?
Yes, I apologize. I misunderstood your question. Yeah, roads are not eligible for this money. So no bridges, no roads, nothing like that. Gas is not eligible for it. It's water, sewer, and broadband. We've been very fortunate in the past of getting our local providers, getting grants and everything. So we've been very fortunate there. I don't think we need it for expanding the broadband. We're almost completely covered in Trousdale County. We've been very fortunate. You can use it for adoption of broadband, so that might be something we look at. However, I initially think it'd be better use of the funds to address these water and sewer issues than the broadband issues, because I think there's already grant money coming in there to address those issues. Plus, there are a lot of different federal and state programs, and they do not want you to duplicate an existing program. So those are things that's going to be put together as well.
So we need to keep in mind 40% of 3.4 for the match. That's where I was going with that, trying to get a number, which is.
Yes, sir. We would have to be, and it'd be like a project by project basis. Let's say if you had $1 million, you were going to fix a sewer project, you would have to fund 40% of that $1 million or whatever would come out. So it'd be on a project by project basis, but ultimately, yeah, 40% is what you got to keep in mind, that we're going to have to come up with those funds, whether it's from the American Rescue funds that the county got or reserves from the water department. We're going to have to come up with it somehow.
Yes, sir, please, Brayton. Yeah.
Is it your take from the meetings that, the money that, this is money that first? Yeah, that's why I was asking him, because he's been to more than me. Is it your understanding that the first amount of money y'all got that's non-competitive is not going to have as many restrictions on the water sewer side as the next round that's coming?
Reading through the interim final rule, you'll get to sections where it says, here's a list of projects. However, this is not an exclusive list if you meet these 4 or 5 different qualifications. So, and you want documentation. I think there might be a little bit more lenient on the water and sewer because it was specifically mentioned, I think, in the law that Congress passed. So there might be a little bit more leeway there. However, there's still going to be a lot of hoops and documentation things you're going to have to do. And then this document I handed out, and there's another one that I'm going to send out on the non-competitive grant. I was reading it. I just got it today and I was reading through it. I'm sorry I didn't send it out already, but I'll send it out to you. And it does cover some of that thing about what kind of documentation and what kind of scoring and eligibility that's in there. It was a summary they put out recently, so I'm going to send that to everyone, and it'll explain that non-competitive side a little bit more and what kind of eligibility requirements there are.
The reason I ask this is because we've done the feasibility study, and with those not being feasible, it's my professional opinion that they're going to make you stay with like CDBG regs, probably with this competitive funding. So you're going to have to show that it's cost beneficial to serve some of these people. So if the non-competitive has not got as many restrictions, I would and we find out, I would suggest if y'all want to serve some unserved areas, now is your time. You know, with that pot of money, don't try to wait around with this next group, because I'm afraid they're going to put a lot of criteria on it, like CDBGs, and you probably won't be able to use that to do that section. I can guarantee you're going to be able to use it for an I&I. They're pushing that. So, but I'm just, so you know, your unserved roads, that kind of goes back to my report. That's why I wanted to, we can't get nothing out of them. And I thought maybe the mayor heard something since we had, it's, nobody really knows what you can use it for and what you can't. They're bringing in these third parties that's trying to review and say that you're okay to do it. But then a lot of people's got concerns, you know, we do this, and then they come back and say, well, we're sorry, that wasn't approved. Now you pay us, you know, the millions back. So I'm just trying to protect y'all and Charleston County too.
Thank you. Mayor, you have something else?
Yeah, and some, if you read through the interim final rule and some of the documentation they put out, kind of explain that a little bit more. It does reference the clean water projects you can do, and another set of projects over here. So it's still gonna, you're gonna do some of these projects, but you're still gonna have to meet some of these eligibility requirements for these other existing projects. So they put it through that prism. So you're gonna have to meet those guidelines. And that's why I say I want to caution about anything we're considering, that looking at it, they incorporate things by reference. So you got to track down that other thing to read it too, and it might be 50 pages long. So there's a lot of things to really work through, and that's why I'm very anxious to get that proposal from GNRC, because they do this thing on a daily basis. I don't, so they can be a lot better to analyze what we're doing and give us feedback on it.
So if I understand correctly, we're looking at a possibility of 3.4. We need 34% actually for the match money. Eligibility and conversations will begin again in January. We have a CD of $1,038,990 some dollars that is about to expire. If we renew anything at the previous discussion in 24 months? Is that what we were looking at? We were looking at 24 months. That would take it to 12 of 23 when you have an additional CD that will be expiring in August of 23. That we've not even talked about those funds right there. That's $563,000 and some odd. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, just using the total allocation, they gave us a $3,435,918. By my math, you want 40% be $1,374,367. So that's what our match is going to be. My initial proposal is we use American Rescue Funds to do that and not draw in on the water department's reserves. That's going to be my initial proposal for doing this non-competitive grant. And then the other grants, they're all going to be competitive. So I can't guarantee you're going to get it or not, but I would at least think let's go ahead and do it on these projects here. So we got 5.3 and that's 1.3. That still leaves you a significant amount of money if you're looking at a small county like Trousdale County to do some of these other projects. So I just wanted to have this discussion about the American Rescue Fund. So we're making a decision on what to do with these CDs. It's through this total. The information's all been out there and you know exactly what you're looking at going forward. So if we want to put it in a CD, that's fine, because my recommendation to the county commission and the water board is going to be, we access the American Rescue Funds to do this, at least this non-competitive grant part, and then look at the other one as we go forward.
Question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jewell.
Will they not accept our match as these CD funds that are banked? We wouldn't really need to access them until we needed to spend this money. I mean, where does this match have to be? Does it have to be in our checking account, or would it be okay for it to be parked in a CD?
Ready and
Other than the fees or everything you're going to take it out, I think there was an early withdrawal fee or something like that of so many days or something like that. But
I mean, as far as for the grant and the match for the grant.
I don't think TDEC or Treasury cares where you get the money from, as long as that's why I recommend the American Rescue Fund. It's already sitting in the bank account. We can access that. We've got 5.3 million to spend. Looking at everything the comptroller is pushing and what our needs are here locally, I do want to spend a good chunk of that on getting us water and sewer issues addressed. So, but as far as that goes, they don't really care. As long as you show where the money came from and you can account for it and all this stuff, they don't really care if you use your own money or American Rescue Fund. To them, it doesn't matter.
Tommy, go ahead.
I just want to let y'all know, we got 2.7 million in a money market account also. And the building will be paid out of that that's being built right now. We'll still have $1.5 million when that's paid in there. So there is $1.5 million sitting in a money market account after the building's built. So that's money's there too. We've got it here. We left that in that market account just to get the building and the tank coming up down the pike. You know, it's a loan, so it won't be eating our finances up other than a monthly payment. But I just want to let y'all know that we do have some funds still that are available.
I would also point out in this inflationary cycle that we're in right now, any money we have parked at 0.65, we're losing money on. If we have projects that we need to fund now, it's just going to cost us way more in the future. And just bear that in mind as well. It's not a good time to be banking money, I guess, is my point.
Thank you for your presentation, Mayor. Mr. Weber, do you have something? Any more communication or questions on the American Rescue Plan funding? Thank you. That takes us back to the earlier item of the agenda of our CDs that are up for renewal. 1,038,996,000. So that's the way this is set up for the quote is 500, 1 million, and then 1.5. Do I have any discussion on how we divide this, walk through this?
Make a motion to move the CD to First National Bank, the full value of 1.038996 for 24 months.
We have a first on the floor. Mr. Weber, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
White, second that. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's shuffle in the papers and we'll go around. It's time for the rest. Go back to the agenda. That takes us to board comments. Anybody else? Any other board members? You want to go around?
Hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving.
I apologize. I had one thing to let y'all know, and the mayor, I forgot about it. It's the TED has some, they do administrative conference every year about December, first week of December. And this year it's in Murfreesboro. And they're going to go over some of these use of these funds, and that scoring eligibility and all that stuff's going to be gone over. Comptroller will give a report there. If any of y'all would like to attend, it's I've got a flyer here and we can set y'all up to go if you'd like to go and get y'all this information in your hands to see what it is. I just went to tell y'all that if y'all like to go to it. It explains the American Recovery Funds, and Don Scholes, y'all are familiar with him. He's going to do some of this. He'll be going over a lot of this stuff. Goes over that scoring that the mayor talked about. It talks about it from a utility perspective. If y'all like to hear about it, anybody like to go? I plan on attending.
What is the date?
Let's see.
Is it one day?
Second and third.
Second and third, is there cost involved if we go?
Yes. there's a
Registration
fee.
fees?
Yeah, there's fees.
What are the registration?
255,
Yeah.
$250 per person?
255 per person.
Mhm.
$255 per person. Can you just send us information on it so we can check our calendars and
Yes, I'll
look
email
over
it to
what's
you.
involved on it?
I'll email it to you. You can go on their website and look the flyer up and look at it too if you like, but I'll email it to you.
Are you planning to attend?
I'm going to attend because I'd like to learn about it.
Okay.
I'm not going to probably get a hotel myself. I'm just going to
Sure.
drive back and forth.
If it's where I can, I would try to. I would, as long as we have someone there, I think Tommy being there would be enough, but I hate to, spend money that we don't have to. Seems a little high on the registration. Does it include meals? Are they gonna feed us good?
They usually give you something.
Okay, okay.
They usually have breakfast sometimes. And
When's the deadline on registration?
I think by the end of this month.
Okay, if you just send us that information, it'd be great. One thing, quick thing I'd like to add, the reason I voted no on the bonuses is not because I don't want our people to get bonuses. It's because none of the other county employees get those bonuses, as we discussed last year. And to me, it's an issue of fairness. If we're going to do it for some, we need to do it for all. And if we can't do it for all, I don't think we need to do it for any. And that was my no vote.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other comments from our board members?
To Dwight's point, then I think it would be incumbent on the other department heads to find a way to provide for their employees.
Thank you all for sticking through this one. I know this has been a thick evening. I appreciate it. Does anyone have anything else? Might get a motion.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. The old turkey spoke.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, to you and yours. Meeting adjourned.